Uncensored is brought to you by PointsBet. Check out PointsBet's great odds and offers. Download the PointsBet app today and gamble responsibly. Well, today's guest is regarded as one of the best batsmen of his generation. He wore the baggy green only 115 times. Absolutely outstanding. And he racked up a crazy 28 centuries. He captained his country, a position held only second to the PM, the man they call the pup. Michael Clarke, welcome to Uncensored.
Thanks, Finchy. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Mate, how's life?
Nothing's changed.
Mate, what
Apart from a little older, a little greyer.
What do retired cricketers do? Obviously, retired footy players lose the plot and end up in rehab.
We do the same.
What do you do mostly the same? That's good.
Mate, you try your hand at anything, I guess. Yeah. I sort of walked out of cricket, went straight into commentary. Still do a little bit of that overseas for in India. And now I started about a year and a half ago, breakfast radio. Yeah. And I'm with Loz, Laurie Daly, who's an absolute legend. Mate, I'm enjoying it. That's been good. And I got a little girl as well, a little 5-year-old, a bit like yourself.
Keep her toes.
She keeps me nice and busy.
Yeah, I like to call my little girl Karma. Yeah. Karma one, that's what's... Mate,
true that.
Do you miss cricket? I did the Anzac Day game the other day, Roosters and Dragons. And I don't miss playing a lot, but there's certain games that they were walking out together. The last person playing, I was give me right arm to be back playing. Yeah. Is there any games like for you? Or
I miss parts of being around your teammates. Yeah. I miss winning. I miss celebrating your wins, but I don't miss playing.
Yeah.
I don't miss picking up a bat. I don't miss going to training. I don't miss team meetings.
Yeah.
I don't miss traveling the world for 10 months of the year. I reckon that one there has probably been the one change that I really loved. And I know COVID's probably played a big part, but being able to stay home, your own house, with your family, all day, every day, you know what I mean? Like not travel, that's been unreal.
Now, we go back away. Do you remember the first time we met?
Was I sober?
Yeah, no, you might have been. I wasn't. you might have been. Where was that? The cargo bar?
I was going to say, it would have been at a bar somewhere.
It was at the cargo bar. Yeah. And me just might...
I would have said Dragonfly, but maybe we went from cargo to Dragonfly.
The Dragonfly sort of kicked off in 05. We're down at cargo bar. And me just my love of footy. You, at the time, you were playing Sheffield Shield for New South Wales. I think you'd played a couple of one-days at that stage. And you loved your footy. You're a Tigers man.
Yeah.
Follow the West Tigers.
Still am, unfortunately, the way they're playing.
And it's funny, that was 04. Obviously, we'll get into a bit further. Then you go to India and your fucking career just goes through the roof. And I know you're not one to talk about your achievements or talk down achievements, but who would have thought meeting you back then? I just went through, listen to this. It's 115 test matches, high scores 329, not out, 28 centuries, 27 50, strike rate of 50, best bowling, 6 for 9. What about that? 6 for 9. 245 one-dayers, high score of 130, 8 centuries, 58 50s, strike rate of 45. Order of Australia, 2020. How did you?
They've given them away.
Oh, they must be. They must.
Disorder.
They must.
Australia.
They must have. Well, how did I have one? How don't I have one of them? Mate, you're a 4-time Test Player of the Year in 09, 2012, 13, 14. 4-time Allan Border medalist, 05, 09, 2012, and 2013. I know you're not one to bask in your own glory, but when you sit back, that's a pretty impressive list of achievements.
It is when you read it.
Yeah.
Look, Finchy, I loved it, mate. I was blessed. I guess like you, I chose a sport from a young age, and I was blessed to be able to play it for, as long as I could, really. I think I played in a brilliant era. I come into the Australian team, we had an amazing team, so many legends, and guys that I grew up watching as a kid. And I got to travel with Warnie. That was always good fun.
Yeah. It was always good fun when you come home and I'd ask for the stories. It was good fun for me to sit home and just listen to them.
Oh my God. So, and then you learn from those guys that you watch and follow, and then luckily I got the chance to captain Australia and help us have a bit of success there as well. So look, I've been blessed, like I say, and that's why I guess I'll always owe the game a truckload. I don't. I've always believed cricket's a part of my life. It's not my life, but I always owe everything to the sport. But in saying that, I'm happily. I don't like the word retired. How can you be retired at 40? But retired from cricket.
Well, you'd be close to your birthday because we're the same age.
Turned 40.
Did you? Happy birthday?
Because
I'm August. Because I knew you were a couple of months older, so I knew you were close. I'm 40 in August.
I'm done. It's all downhill.
What was it like growing up in Liverpool? Were you always down the nets playing? I remember as a footy kid with footy growing up in Newcastle, I was in the backyard commentating myself. Was that the same with you? The bowling or bat and getting your dad to throw plenty of balls?
I was pretty lucky. So my old man, he owned a milk run when I was really young. Went to a brick run at a brick truck, and then when I was about 9, him and Mum bought an indoor sports centre. So rain, hail or shine, I could play cricket. So my goal was to get home from school as quickly as I could, not do any homework, try not to get detention, after school detention, so I could go straight to the indoor sports centre and play cricket. And again, you'd have your mates there, sister, whatever it took, just need someone to bowl or throw balls to me so I could bat. So I think that played a really big part in just giving me the opportunity to, whether it was kick a footy, play cricket, my sister was into netball, so there was always someone there to, you had a partner in crime.
Yeah, 100%. Now, your hero segment is brought to you by Swish. Swish is the most exciting and personalised fan experience for all the convenience of your own phone. Go to heyswish.com for more info. Now, I was lucky. My hero growing up was Freddie, and I got to play with him.
Yeah.
I'm guessing during that period, you would have played with a lot of probably idols.
Yeah,
did you have a hero? Was there one bloke?
Yeah, Michael Slater. Slats was my favourite.
I just wonder why, just trying to hit his boundaries off every ball. That's what he's like.
Exactly right. I love watching him play, and then I was fortunate. I didn't play for Australia with him, but I played for New South Wales with him. And then again, hard to go past Warnie.
Yeah,
Warnie was a genius. So to be able to play alongside him for a fair few years as well. I went and played at Hampshire County Cricket. He was my captain. I didn't play one-day cricket, but I played a fair few Test matches with him as well. So those two guys were probably the two standouts.
He sort of transcended cricket. Like I talk a bit about the experience of playing with him, and I know you were very close, but I remember I had the Shane Ward spin kit. You know what I mean? You put the mats out, like the number 1 and 2, and you'd be spinning like. And I love Mark Waugh, I love me cricket as well.
Yeah, genius.
But that era, just before you started a golden run of Australian cricket, didn't it? Those.
It's just that, and I think the time as well. Like a lot of those guys were the back half of their career, so they'd sort of set their foundation. They knew what they were doing. A lot of them were, older, married, family, kids. So for me to come in as a youngster and just play, you think of Hayden Langer, Ponting, Martin, Gilchrist, Warne, McGrath, Gillespie,
Lee.
Mate, just an unbelievable team. And I think back to my Test debut. And a lot of people say, you made 100 in your first game. If I got a duck in my first 20 Test matches, it wouldn't have mattered.
Nah.
We would have won every game. But so mate, that was the way I felt like I played as well.
I remember Sheffield Shield. There's like Darren Lehmann and Jamie Siddons.
Couldn't get a game.
Kasperwitz and Bickle. Like they couldn't get in. It was harder to get out than to get in. Yeah. One thing, I got a great story about Michael Slater. Mate, I remember being out one of my first times in Sydney. It was about end of 02 with Chris Flannery and Michael Crocker, Queenslanders. Yeah. So we're down the Coogee Bay Hotel. It's down the pavilion now. Yeah, surprise. Drink me vodka Red Bull, smoking me darts, just me big yellow teeth. Nothing's changed. And Michael Slater was there, and I love cricket. So I'm going talking to him, and Croc and Flanner, they're Queenslanders. And the next day, there's the old Mercantile Mutual. They're playing at North Sydney Oval, and Slats is out in the drink before the game. And Slats is me and Slats are arguing with Croc and Flanner, New South Wales versus Queensland. He goes, "You watched." Tomorrow, he goes, "I'm captain. We're going to win the toss and bat, and I'm going to hammer you Queenslanders." So we've had a big night. I woke up the next day a bit hung. First day was at 1 o'clock or whatever in the one day. I woke up about 1:30, turned it on, and it's one for. Look, where's Slats? Slats got out for like 3.
Surprise.
So I wonder why. Probably sort of left him about 3 in the morning. Playing for that New South Wales team at the time, mate, that had, 8 or so Test players. So that must have been a huge step at such a young age too.
That was important as well, because I think, a lot of people always talk about your time playing at the highest level, but I think playing for New South Wales and even Western Suburbs was just as important. Make first grade was such a special feeling, and then I think I played my first game for New South Wales at 17 or 18. But again, you go to training, Steve Waugh, Mark Waugh, Slater, McGill, Brett Lee, Corey Richards, Shane Lee. These guys were...
Richard
Cheekwee, unbelievable players. So, again, you couldn't ask for better preparation before you get to the highest level. If you go and watch those guys train, can only help you. And I think that's why I probably say I played in a really good era, because you got to play grade cricket and first class cricket with and against international players. You look, these days, there's so much cricket on. The Aussies never play club cricket, and will play a handful of Shield games. That's it, And
they must have been great. I remember one thing about young kids coming through at Melbourne. It's just the leaders there. It's a great example to get those traits into your system straight away. Of how to go about being great.
Watch and learn. I remember Steve Rixon was my first coach at New South Wales, and we're doing slip catches. Steve Waugh was first slip, Mark Waugh second, I was at third, and I don't know, he must have hit, 20 or 30 catches and everyone caught him. And Mark and Steve said, rightio, I'm done, I'm going to the nets. And I go, yep, there you done. So I turned around and start walking, and Stumper was like, hey, where are you going? I go, what do you mean? He said, where are you going? I said, I'm following those two. He said,
no, you're not.
Those two have played 100 test matches. Get back here, you're catching for another 2
Mark
hours.
was one of the most record catches or something. He was amazing in the slips. I remember Mark Wall caught that one at slip, I think, off Warney down at Pakistan when they chased down. Oh, it's unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was when they chased down Gilly and Justin Langer. Unbelievable. Now, mate, there's not too many people I can say I've had a good influence on in their career, but there's not, mate. There's usually when I talk to mates where I've come into their career, it's usually the tailspin from that. But mate, I must have been a good luck charm, because when we started becoming mates,
coming at the right time,
and we started knocking about and getting on the drink, your career just went through the roof. Obviously, I couldn't do it with rugby league players, so I should have hung around more cricketers.
Cricket manager,
mate. I remember us. I think it was about March, sort of start of the year in 2004. We become mates. We knock around all year. Then you go to India. And your whole life changes.
Yeah, it did, and it was amazing, mate, how it worked. To be honest, I went over there and didn't expect to play, because I think we had about 16 or 17 blokes on the tour, a couple of spare batters that were much better players than me. Ricky Ponting got injured must have been in the World Cup in South Africa leading in. I think he broke his finger, so he still come, but he didn't play. And then Gilly was captain, and sort of 2 days before the game, Gilly just come and told me, he said, we're picking you, you're in. And I was like, what do you mean? What about, I think there was Brad Hodge, might have been Darren Lee, and I was like, what about the other two legends that are much better players than me?
They've only got 20,000 Sheffield Shield runs, first class runs.
And they were like, no, we love the way you play spin. You haven't played much here, so you'll be fearless. Just go and play exactly like you've been playing in Shield cricket. So within sort of, 12 hours, I spoke to my family, got them on a plane. They landed in India.
So they originally weren't going over?
No idea. No. And I wasn't. My mum and dad. Well, I flew mum, dad, nan, and
yeah,
Bob.
it's because I remember the great scenes there in the stand.
Grandparents had never been out of Australia. That was their first trip out of Australia.
They've been out of Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly right. Liverpool to Smithfield. That's about it. So they get on a plane, they land, and then I'm into it, and we're sort of 3 or 4 for 130, and out I walk. And again, I sort of, once I got off the mark, like getting that first run, was just, you're so nervous.
Yeah.
And then once I'd done that, I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I can get out. Nothing wrong with that. I received my baggy green cap from Warney. I got off the mark, so go for your life.
Well, you score 151. But let's, like at this stage, we hadn't won in India for 40 years or something, 30 years.
31 years, yeah.
And not only we didn't win there, we got smashed there.
Yeah.
Like, we really struggled over there, didn't we?
Yeah.
So what's the big deal? 151 on debuts, but and I guess what point they say about putting you in there, you're not carrying any scars, and there's no doubt you're a bit of a gunslinger when you were young, weren't you? You were.
I think you are when you're young. You're fearless.
You were. You took them on, didn't you?
And that was my goal as well, where I batted at I think I batted 5 or 6. I can't remember in that first test, but it was, same thing. I enjoyed playing spin bowling, but my approach was to try and be aggressive. So I think I knew that we hadn't won there for a long time, but even that, as a youngster, it doesn't sink in. It's like...
But you just thought that's sort of like perfect.
Play. Yeah.
That's sort of like perfect. I remember early in my career when you'd be down at half, you go, this is good. Who cares? When you're older, it's like, shit.
Help.
Where's
the youngster?
We're right, old boy, or fuck, we're in a bit of trouble here. Mate, run us through scoring the century. Because if I remember, you put the
baggy green
to celebrate it.
I had my helmet
and you swapped out into your bag because you wanted it.
I think I was on 96 or 97, and I remember saying to my grandfather when I was a kid, because again, you're a youngster and you're probably way too cocky, and I tell your pop that, I'm going to play for Australia one day, Pop, and when I do, I'm going to score my first 100 in my baggy green. So then actually when you're out there on 96 or 97, you think, well, I told him I was going to do it, I got to do it. So I did, and he was there in the crowd as well.
That must have been a huge moment for all of you, not only yourself, but your family.
That's the thing now, Finch, you look back when you finish your career, and I feel like so many parts of my career were actually less about me. It was more about my family, and even your mates that are there and support you through the horrible times, get you back up on your feet so you can go and do what you love. And that's the one thing I reckon about success, that you learn more and more every day. You can't have it on your own.
100%.
You need so much help and advice and support, and I was lucky enough to have that.
Yeah, I look back on some of the moments through my career, and I remember after I kicked the field goal, I was doing the lap with the Origin team, and I remember seeing my parents. And that was what I was most proud of, because they sit in the stands, and I can only imagine the shit they would hear about people ripping into me, you know, and bagging me. Yeah. As a player, you go, who cares? See, that does sort of ducks back some, Derek.
But when it's your family.
But when your family's hearing it,
agree.
So for them just to have that moment.
Yeah, it's good.
And I guess
the best part of sport.
Yeah, I guess, and it's funny as you go through now. Like at the end of your career, you had your little girl and all that sort of stuff. It's crazy.
Well, you see, again, that's the other thing. You see things a lot differently when you're a child as well. You get a bit older and you've got your own kid, and then all of a sudden you're looking through different eyes.
Now, they're not bloodshot eyes for starters. They're not bloodshot eyes that's had about 30 minutes sleep.
You see 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, you're
not getting in. You're waking up.
You see the sunrise sober. Now, not only do you score 151, you take 6 for 9 in that test as well. Are you just thinking, fucking, I haven't won over in 31 years? Are these blokes kidding?
No, I was thinking that pitch. So it was actually, I think
that pitch, can I take it back to Sydney with me?
That pitch was horrendous. Yeah. So anybody could have got wickets on that pitch. That's what I thought. Yeah. I don't know. That. I sort of saw my bowling a little bit like that. In the right conditions, in other words, a horrible wicket, I was okay. Because all I could do is I could put it on a spot, and then natural variation. The pitch actually spun the ball, not me. So my goal was just put it somewhere around there and hope they miss it.
Well, not only the one in Sydney where you win the test.
Day five.
Well, no one else could get the wicket. You step up and go, fuck, are we in that bad a spot? And then
I told
you get 3 wickets in it over to win the game.
I told punter the whole day, give me a bowl, give me a bowl, and I'll stand him aside.
So you'd know a wicket where you go, I think I'm a...
I think the other thing, when a team had a lot of right-handed batters, that's when I knew if the wicket was spinning, I could have impact, because the ball spinning away was always harder to face than the ball spinning back in, I thought, when I was facing spin. So I knew India's last 3 batsmen were all right-handed. So I was like, skipper, give me a bowl.
And you're the left-hand
bowler spinning the ball away, yeah. So anyway, he tried everyone else, didn't work, gave me a bowl, and thankfully I fluked a few.
Well, 6 of them.
I'll take
3 that day to win the game. Now, mate, the juggernaut rolled on. I remember sending that text message to you when you come back and you play New Zealand. You score another 100. Only a select few that scored 100 on debut, away and at home. But now this is, I guess, as your career goes on, you learn to live with expectation and then pressure. You're now compared to Dougie Walters, the Mark Orr. And the expectation to score 100, I'm sure you need to do it. But not only score 100, score it in fast fashion and an exciting
play a certain way, entertain.
Did you feel that? Because it's a massive achievement. Like that's for a young kid.
I don't think so. I think up until I got dropped, I think my attitude was I was just going to play the way that I loved playing, and I wasn't, if I made runs, I made runs. If I didn't make runs, I didn't make runs. I was pretty content with the style of cricket I was playing. But my weakness throughout my whole career, but certainly at the start, was my shot selection. So I would try and play. If I saw the ball...
Because you think you could play any shot?
Well, if I see it, I think hit it. Yeah. The key to batting is score runs. So I thought you're looking for 6 first, 5 second, 4 third, 3, 2, 1, and if I got a block it, then I got block.
So you're thinking home run every time?
Well, I'm thinking I can hit it to the boundary.
Every time?
Well, yeah. You're trying to.
Yeah.
That's how my innings... That's how I'd try and set up. So you, again, like I say...
So if it's in the shot zone, you're thinking, let's go as far as I can.
Which you probably can when you're on 30 or 40, not when you're on 0 or 1. Yeah. So shot selection's so important. And you learn that, like a lot of things you learn through your career. The older you get, make a few mistakes, try and learn from those lessons. And I think as much as it hurt me, when I actually got dropped from the team, I think there was a lot of outside factors that were playing a part in me not improving my game, but... The reality was getting dropped was the best thing that happened in my career.
We did it. Not only did you win that Allan Border medal in 05, you then later get dropped. But then that brings you back for after the Ashes series in 05. Now, I could spend 8 hours on this series. McGrath rolls his ankle.
Unbelievable.
Brett Lee with the great image with Flintoff at the end.
Yeah. Still probably my favourite test series, even though we lost it.
And that's what it sucked. It's the first one they won forever. Yeah. And that's probably why, because we smashed them going back for so long.
Yeah.
But I remember Shane Warne just carrying the team.
Oh.
And I remember me and you. Firstly, I want to speak about the series, but I remember talking to you, and you were really close to Warne, and he had his off-field, his marriage, and that was breaking down, and it was extremely public. But how off the field you'd be sitting having a beer after the game, just you and him.
Yeah.
And how much you could see he was hurting, and he was with his kids away and his marriage is breaking down. But then we'll just compartmentalise, put it all aside, come out the next day and take the fight.
That's what made him the best, Warnie. And he always did it. He would always leave the rubbish or leave whatever was going on off the field. He would leave it off the field, and you would see him. Warnie would have a smoke as he was walking onto the ground. You know, he'd try and hide somewhere, but it was when he finished his smoke, put it out, that you knew it was, for him it was like, right, he had game time. And he crossed that line, and whatever he had going on off the field, he'd leave it there, go do his stuff on the field, and then when he come back, he knew it was still going to be there. But I reckon that was Warnie's greatest strength, how mentally strong he was to still be able to go and perform when he had so much media pressure off the field with his life. And he had it his whole career. You know, 2005, he was an absolute genius with bat and ball.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't say that too often. Warnie making runs with the bat. But
I still love his 99 and the bloke was a no ball, but he still tried to put it out of the park. Mate, and how's it for you then? You've stepped into this team. This team, like it's that sort of era. Steve Waugh into that Ricky Ponting era under their cap. That goes down as the greatest sporting teams up there as anyone. I think they had the record amount of tests with Steve Waugh, 16. And these are a lot of blokes you would have watched growing up.
Yeah.
And now, not only are you right in the thick of it, you're the shoulder to cry on for some of these blokes.
I think at the start of your career, you look with envy. Like you work out who you're sitting beside, and you actually can't believe who you're in the change room with. But as you become part of that team and a team member, accountability is set on you as well. So even though, you know, I'm sitting beside Warnie, who I think is an absolute legend, if I don't pull my weight, then if I don't take that catch, or if I'm not in the right spot, if I don't make enough runs, then he can't get 5 for you. That sort of, they instill that, and that's why I feel like, you know, everyone talks about pressure. How did you deal with pressure at the highest level and expectation? I think the expectation was always more from within for me than whatever the media or fans or public put on me. I had high expectation, and maybe because it was instilled from these guys in me that I had to perform.
Yeah. You're your own harshest critic, aren't you?
Exactly right. So whatever the media wrote, it was less than what I expected anyway. And I think that was probably a good thing through my career as well.
Yeah. Now, how was that loss? How was that loss? It's funny because for so long, you know, that for years really, test matches were over in 3 days sometimes. Like we would open the batting. I remember one of the English series, I think the series before, win 5-0. That might have been next to Andy Caddick.
Caddick, yeah.
Said I'm going to bore them with just line and length. And I remember Richie said a great, like, Langer and Hayden both got hundreds to say, well, none for 250. And they said the only thing the Aussies are getting bored with are hitting boundaries, you know, like Richie said in that choice. He said he was going to bore him with line and length. The only thing the Aussies are bored with are hitting boundaries. Yeah. So it was like that. We would get 400 in a session.
I know.
In a day, and then we'd rock them out to, and all of a sudden we'd lose to England. What was it like being a part of that first? Because now it's like
not fun.
No.
I remember at the start of my career, we got abused
for winning too easily.
For winning every game. Yeah. And then we lost the Ashes and got abused for that as well. Yeah, couldn't win.
Well, that's what it's like. I'd be filthy because I'd want to sit and watch cricket for 3 days because next minute, Days of Our Lives is coming back on. So Mum's got control of the TV. You know? Well, where's me cricket? I could sit and watch.
Yeah, I know.
And my old man used to love it because the mum would go, can you go mow the lawn? And he'll go, I'll do it when the game's finished in 5 days' time. But it'd be 2.5 with you blokes winning so quick. But you're right,
it was tough.
And then you lose, and it's like, are these blokes kidding?
Yeah,
like we wanted a test match series so desperately.
Yeah,
wanted you blokes, and then when you lose,
it was a great series, though, and I reckon that's the thing. Like when you look back, now, of course you want to win, but when I look back now, for me to still say it's the best test series I played in, even though we lost, I never thought that'd come out of my mouth because it's instilled in you. You have to win. You know.
Now, the best thing about it is a quick turnaround. You know, they come back over here pretty quickly and flog them 5-0. Yeah. Let's get back to reality. Thanks, boys. But I remember, and I think Warnie had a go. I think it was Collingwood who got the MBE or whatever it was. Were you sitting there like some of those blokes had been there, but you're like, hang on, some of you blokes. That's one series. She's like, you know, congratulations, you've got us. But you've only just got us. Yeah, well, and we were off.
You can tell,
we've smashed this forever, and you're carrying on like fucking gooses, you know?
You could tell the way we played. That series in Australia, we were ready.
Yeah.
We were so ready.
Yeah.
You know, and I think all of us felt like
Did any of their carry-on get you a bit? Like, fuck, look at these blokes carrying on.
I think the celebrations after the series, all the
That's
boys
what I mean,
sort of kept that in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
But in saying that, like, we probably feel like England were brilliant in that series over there. Everything went their way, and they deserved to win.
Yeah.
But we probably felt like we didn't have much luck. We weren't at our best. We made a lot of mistakes. So when we got the chance to have a crack here, and that's why I reckon we were like, we're not taking the foot off. And we didn't either. We wanted to flog them.
You could have played 20 tests and it would have been 20-0.
Yep, I reckon it would have.
It was a bash up in every... Because I'm pretty sure it was this series, correct me if I'm wrong, but the second test was in Adelaide and it was going into that last day 5 and Peterson spoke about never getting bowled around his legs from Warnie. That day. Yeah. That comes out the paper. I'll never get bowled around. And because I
had room service with Warnie that night, and he told me, he said, "Watch this." I go,
because he's in bat.
I said, "No way, mate. He'll sweep you. You cannot do that. It's not Adelaide. There's not enough rough." He said, "You watch this," and he did it.
And it looked like it was just going to be a drawn test. Yeah. You know, the Adelaide gets a bit flat. Listen to me with my cricket fucking talk.
Right, but Warnie was one of the few that said we'd win that test match.
He goes to the sheds, Peterson, at the end of day 4. And, you know, he's one of those he's a peacock, obviously a confident bloke. And I loved that he'd fight back against the Aussies, even though he's a South African. Yeah. But he had that confidence where other blokes, they take on Warnie, they're gone before they get out of the pavilion. You can see him, he's all over him. He's in it. But then he says, I'll never get out around the legs. And sure enough, first session in day 5.
Hold him.
And then they just collapse.
And Warnie was on fire.
And you just come out and chase it down 100 and something.
140, I think.
Yeah. And win it. Yeah. And the scenes were amazing in Adelaide.
It was a massive win,
and it was like, there's your chance. Well, England had their chance.
Yeah, that test taught me a lot because, again, a lot of the time you get to that day 5 and you think it's just going to pan out to be a draw. They had that whole vibe about it. And I remember room service with Warnie the night before when he told me he'd get Kevin Peterson out around his legs. He also said, mate, I'm telling you now, England will just try and shut up shop here. So they won't score quick enough. They won't score enough runs. We'll bowl them out. We'll win the test. And I'm like, King, we need to get 8 wickets. And then we're going to have to go and check. I go, no way, mate. And then
so it's quite remarkable to get.
He was just looking at me, just told you so, told you so, told you so.
Is that sort of? I relate it to Freddie or Cameron Smith. Now, when I seen Freddie pulling on the number 6 jumper or number 9 at Melbourne was getting ready, we're a chance today. Like was that the same when you're in the locker room?
Warne and McGrath in your team, you're never out of the game. Yeah. They can they'll win the game from nowhere.
And what are like those? What were those two different persons?
Great mates, unbelievable friends.
But just totally different.
Completely opposite. Like born in different worlds. Yeah. So different, yet.
One's in Hollywood, the other one's.
Yeah, Pidge's on his farm, 500,000 kilometres away, shooting pigs, and Warnie's in New York, running a nightclub.
Yeah. But they're unstoppable together, aren't they?
Awesome combination. Best combination I ever played with.
And what I loved about them, they always credited one another, so it was never... Because the Batman and Robin, there can always be one, the Robin goes, or someone go, I can do this without him. You know, like halves in league get a bit like that. Well, the halfbacks get more, I can lead the team on my own, and it's never the same. No. Those blokes, as great as they were, they always...
Retired the same day.
Yeah.
Walked off the field together. Same day. Awesome. Yeah. 2 great mates, still are. And, I reckon that was... I don't think it was planned that they were going to retire the same day, but I think for what they achieved together was always better than what they achieved individually.
Now, I'm pretty sure you told me this story.
Oh, no. Were we sober?
Yeah, again, you may have been sober, but I certainly wasn't. When John Buchanan comes in, and it was obviously, I'll get to this a bit later with your captaincy, how captains are different in both sports, but you did the army camps, and and obviously there's I won't name names, but you said that there's the blokes who are just ready to go, you know, and then there's the other blokes who are like, what's an army camp going to do with cricket? Like a Warnie.
Yeah, Warnie hated it.
And you said you told me they were going through his bags or something, and they took his cigarettes. They said if the smokes go...
Well, they were all standing in a line in our undies. And they said, empty your bags.
Everyone's got the Bonds and he's got the Calvin Kleins.
All of us in our Bonds. Yeah. You're not allowed to empty your bag, not allowed to take anything. We're going to give you 2 T-shirts, a pair of shorts, sleeping bag, whatever. Chucked it in. Everyone put all their gear in. Warnie put all his gear in. Then he put his smokes into his bag. But he wasn't even allowed to take glasses. Yeah. And one of the SAS guys comes over and says that they stay. And he goes, no, they don't. He said, you can't take cigarettes on the camp.
On an army camp.
And he said, well, I'm not going. And then John Buchanan walked over and said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I'm not going, Coach. If I can't take my cigarettes, I'm not going 4 days out of smoke."
If the smokes don't go, the king don't go either.
So then John Buchanan and the SAS crew go and have a team meeting over in the corner and come back over and say to Warnie, "Rightio, for every packet of smokes you take, you got to leave something behind." So Warnie goes, "Socks, undies." So he chucks 3 pairs. He only got 3 pairs of socks, chucks them out. 3 pairs of undies, chucks them out. 6 packets of smokes.
Oh, that's outstanding.
So he went jockless and sockless, but he could smoke.
So he smokes.
And I remember we would sleep at night and it was pitch black. Like you're just on the dirt, sleeping bag, and all you look over and all you see
the little red
light just hanging out of the
gold.
sleeping bag, and we're like, "Oh,
mate." But you know what? Like those army camps, early on, you're angry. Like this is not fucking.
Hate it, yeah.
What? How's this helped me tackle, or how's this helped me score runs? And then you get that tired and it's delusional that it's funny. So seeing him just light up, it would have been hilarious.
And again, you got like blokes like Matthew Hayden and Andrew Simons.
They're made in the bush.
Mate, they could have stayed there for a month.
Yeah.
They were begging to go for longer.
And then you got you city rats like you two.
McGill, those two were just blowing up.
It's red wine, McGill.
And then me, I'm like, you're just hanging on for dear life, thinking, like, we couldn't get a feed. You're just dying for a feed. You're dying for a bed. Yeah. But again, I was a youngster as well, so you try not to say like whinge too much. But you had to laugh when you listen to Warnie and McGill. Oh.
Yeah, I remember you saying after something when they said, "What?" Right at the end of the camp, everyone's going around, "What did you learn about yourself from this experience?" And like all the other blokes going, I was mentally tough, I can do this. And they said, "What did you learn? That I'm a weak prick and I hate the outdoors or something?"
That's what he said. Mate, I did something like, I like to sleep in my bed. Yeah. I'm weak as piss. I can't get fired for it. Exactly. He rambled off about 10 different things, just abused himself. Yeah, said, "I'm never coming back."
That's gold. And mate, if we go back to a couple of big things that series this morning, 600 wicket, but you said not on that, there's 3 legends retired. I think Langer and Warner McGrath went. So you look back now to be a part of that. That's awesome. Huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was a great series as well for us to be able to play that way. I think for all of us, it was like that reward for we got beaten over there, but we're able to come and turn it around. And yeah, that was. I think back on a lot of occasions when those players individually or together retired, and you probably don't notice it at the time. Yeah. You think we'll be fine. We'll find another way. Like Warnie went, McGill can play, or would find another spinner, or JL went, you get another opening batter. And you do. The game continues on. But when 3 players like that walk away from the game,
big loss in that.
Huge impact. Yeah.
Do you think, I'll just say with this, the Ricky Ponting situation when, obviously Ricky Ponting at 35 is not going to be as good than he was at 25.
Yep.
And then the pressure was on him because he's not batting like 25, but he's still the best number 3 in the country.
Agree.
But the pressure they expect him because he's not batting like it is, and if the media sort of force out you old champions like that, and then all of a sudden we're still trying to find a number 3. Like, we went through that year of...
we think the grass is greener.
Yeah, but you think, well, hang on. A punter at 80% still probably better than what... Well, did you find that as you got on? Even because you went through that run, your career just went again.
When I took over the captaincy, that's why I fought to keep Ricky.
Yeah.
So the selectors said very rarely does a captain stand down and stay in the team. So if you don't feel comfortable, it's time for Ricky to go. I said, we need him. Yeah. I said, we need him
off field.
We need him for his batting, but we also need, he'll play like he'll be another coach for us, So I fought hard to keep him, and I wanted him there. I thought he played a big part in helping that younger generation get to the level we needed to. And again, I agree. If he was batting at 80%, he was better than anybody else at number 3 or number 4.
Exactly.
So, I think we do in general.
A victim of their own success, aren't you?
And we do. We think the grass is greener all the time. Very rarely is it. And the other thing as well, when somebody, it's either like you push them out the door and then the day they announce their retirement, then we thank them for everything they've done or talk about how good they are.
How you think of when they're playing?
Can't believe they're gone.
Jeez, he's a good player. Hang on. You just kick shit out of him for the last 6 months of his career. How good was he?
Oh, well, Ricky probably copped as much backlash from the media as anyone I can think of in Australia when he was going through that, wasn't making as many runs. And he came out, I think, in his book not long ago and said he probably played 2 years too long. Yeah. But every day, the media were just on his back. You can understand why he retired.
Had enough. Right, we'll get to your captaincy in a minute. I just want to fire a couple of quick questions at you. Who's the best player you played with?
Warnie.
Best bowler you faced?
Andrew Flintoff.
What and why?
consistently fast, tall, so he bowled back of a length, hard for me
What
to
does that
score.
mean, back of the length?
Means he bowled sort of in your ribs, where the ball would bounce a bit shorter than you would like, and
That
it
sounds
generally
like
hit
fun.
in the ribs. Yeah, it wasn't fun. And he was sort of 140 Ks consistently.
But you would have faced faster, right?
Fast. Shoaib Akhtar was the fastest I faced. He's
But
160.
not-
Different style of bowler, and he was quick for 3 overs. Flintoff was quick for 12 overs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flintoff was nasty.
Yeah, and I was going to say the fastest bowler you faced.
Shoaib Akhtar.
Did you ever face Binger in the nets?
Quick. Shoaib quicker though.
Really?
But Binger was still quick. They were all quick. Sean Tate, Mitchell Johnson, Brett Lee, Jason Gillespie on his day fast, but Shoaib Akhtar the fastest.
Funky Miller?
Not so fast.
Mate, for the haircut was fast.
Great haircut.
Best batsman you've seen?
Sachin Tendulkar.
Best roommate?
Oh, Warney by
Warney.
far.
Worst roommate?
Warney by far. Warney was the messiest bloke on the planet. He would, like, even in the change room, I'd sit the opposite side of the change room to him, and his shit would end up in my bag.
It must have been fun. I digress here. I go from the side, but like, and probably links into best place to tour. But when he's a rock star. When you go to places like England, you're strolling straight into nightclubs and bars. And
We went to the premiere of Catwoman and sat beside Halle Berry and Sharon Stone. I was like, "What's going on?"
Hey girls,
here?
you know Liverpool. You know a place called
And I
Liverpool?
was at Hampshire. I was a youngster, but he Warney different league. Like I think about. In the cricket circles, his fame was different to anybody else's.
Yeah. Best place to tour?
Cape Town, South Africa. My favourite place.
Really?
Yep. Great part of the world.
Talk about the one days. How does you've debuted before you tested in one days, didn't you?
Yep. I think I played. I played a handful of one days.
So you won the 2007 World Cup.
Yep.
Captain, obviously, the 2015 World Cup. Let's just quickly go there. The last stand as captain, and not only that, the last game at the MCG, full house.
Yeah, amazing.
You have an amazing knock. Not a bad way to bow out.
Nice to win.
Yeah. What was it more relief for? How was your mindset in that?
It was because at one stage I wasn't going to make the World Cup because of my injury. I tore my hamstring off the bone. Had to have
Was that
surgery.
from the back as well?
Yeah, I think it was a combination. Yeah, I think my back was weak at the time. I bent down to pick a ball up and throw it, and my hammy went. So the rehab to get fit and be available for selection was quite tough. So to be able to be on the field and then to win made that extra special. But it's funny, when I look back now, I wish I retired from everything then as well. Like it was the right time for me, and I had a lot of stuff going on. And obviously Husey had just passed away as well. Injury, I felt really fatigued mentally and physically. And then I was, my little girl wasn't too far away from being born as well. So that sort of, at that stage, I think my cricket was ready to.
Just on the Philippines, you don't have to go too much into it. I know it's probably still a tough thing for you to talk about. But obviously, we'd sort of gone separate ways. I'd gone to Melbourne and that, and I hadn't spoken to you for a while. But I just remember, I thought the way you led just Australian cricket in general, not the Test team, but the way you represented Cricket Australia, the way you represented his mates, your friendship with him during that period was fucking outstanding. Yeah. Just the way you presented yourself, the way you carried yourself, and then the way you led your team. How do you look back on that time? It must be still a tough period to look back on.
Yeah, it is, and I think it always will be. I think the hardest challenge for me was through our careers together. I couldn't show how close I was to Husey because I was his captain. And particularly the Australian captain. And I was a selector at the time, so you never wanted anybody else in the team to feel like, hang on a second, if Husey got picked, is that on the captain?
Because he was like a little Michael Clark, wasn't he? Because I remember we had a little night out.
Yeah.
And Philip Hughes was coming through.
Yeah. We lived with me for
and it was like, who's this fucking clone?
You come for a week and live with me for 6 months.
Because we were a bit different, Like I'd be smoking and coming on. You're like, mate, Finchy, smoke over there, And you go, mate, Finchy, do your hair. If you're going to come out with me, put some decent clobber on. And yous were the dressed up. So I remember we had I think it was in the cross, and maybe Hugo or something. He was like a little Clarky too.
Well, he come to West, come to my club when he was a youngster, come down from the country, from Maxville, and we just hit it off. We got on really well. He had the same trainer, same batting coach as I did. And like I say, we started playing Western Suburbs, New South Wales and Australia. He busted his shoulder, so we had to do rehab. So he'd come to my house. I was living in Bondi at the time, come and bunked in for a couple of days and ended up staying for 6 months. So that obviously brought us closer together.
How's that shoulder going, buddy? Yeah, still no good. I have to stay for another month, Clarky.
In a sling for 6 months. But yeah, I think, I loved his attitude towards wanting to be the best player he could be, but he was also so chilled about, life. You'd be batting with him in the middle, and I'd be saying, mate, the ball's swinging, or, James Anderson's bowling quite well. He'd be saying, mate, you should have seen this bull I bought yesterday. It's an it costs like $2,500. It's a crack. My old man loves it. I'm like, Husey, we're 3 for 10.
Yeah,
But that's what he was like, He was so relaxed. He loved his cattle. He loved his family. And we just had a really good connection. So, through that period when he passed, it was extremely difficult for his family, as I'm sure everyone could imagine. He had a lot of friends, a lot of close friends. And, for me, I think it was, part of my responsibility was first and foremost to look after the family as much as I could, then try and represent the team. And then it probably took me, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months for it to really hit me. Like I remember a tour after the World Cup, went to West Indies before we went to the Ashes, and I was married at the time, and my partner at the time was pregnant with our little girl, so she couldn't travel. And I found that so hard, like even going to bed, because you have your own rooms when you're playing for Australia, going to bed in my own room, you just cry yourself to sleep, because it actually hit me about, losing a close friend and then dealing with it on your own. And I think that's why I say I sort of feel like that tour... it just broke me. It finally sunk in that, and not just you lose one of your best mates, but also playing a sport that you love. And a sport for me, like I grew up as the shortest kid in the team, but I was fearless. I was never scared. It was like the faster you bowled, the better for me. I could take it on. But I think there was just a little, even if it was my subconscious, when I walked out to bat after Husey passed away, just wasn't the same. Your head was just off the ball a little bit, and they were changing the helmets, they were putting extra protection, and all that probably just got to me. So like I say, I think if I had time again, I probably would have walked away at the end of that World Cup. The World Cup in Melbourne.
Honest about that too, mate. We talk about that period. It's obviously because you're captain, but we'll go back to getting the captain. That must have been a massive honour for you and your family. Because like I said, like the Australian cricket captain held second to the PM in this country. It's obviously one of our nationals, that in the league in AFL. Like it's one of the...
You don't think of it at the time like
massive,
that, though,
mate.
Like I never dreamt of I dreamt of playing for Australia, but I never dreamt of captaining Australia. And I found it really difficult when I was vice captain that there was always an expectation that I was going to be the next captain. So I hated that waiting game. I would have rather stay a youngster or be captain. I wasn't very good at the in-between. But when I got the opportunity, we were ranked 5th in the world in Test cricket, and I was like, rightio, we've got to get back to number one, and had to make some tough calls along the way. But, the one thing I'll always say is it was never personal. The decisions I made as captain were based on trying to get the team back to being the best in the world. And like I say, thankfully we got there.
Well, mate, I was about to say that. How did your life change? Obviously, there's a lot of prestige, so there would have been a lot of perks. For lack of a better term, doors opening. You got to mix in different circles in terms of your role and your responsibilities as captain.
I don't feel like much change though, Finchy. No, I don't. Honestly, I felt like I was, and maybe because
more responsibility in terms of off-field stuff.
You're busier. But again, I didn't mind that. For me, I was always, even still now, I go to bed, my phone's on 24/7. I don't turn my phone off.
I turn my phone off for weeks.
Smart man. I should. But it's all. I think I was open to. I always knew the cricket for me was never, you don't pick a time. You don't train for 2 hours. It was like 24/7, So the captaincy in that department was fine. I was very stubborn. I was very stuck in my ways. I had my style of leadership that I believed in, and I felt like it could.
Who did you role model? Did you model that on anyone, or you take bits from everyone?
I think I did. I probably took pros and cons from a number of different leaders. Even going back to being a kid, watching my dad and different teams he played in, and even footy. Growing up as a kid, watching but playing under different captains in footy. I think I had my own little bits of certain people, but my own style. But again, I always believed a little bit like playing. You had to back your gut. You had to go with it. And I was willing to live by the sword and die by the sword. If we lost, sack me. But if we didn't, then let me keep doing my job. And that's what I said to Cricket Australia at the time. If you're going to give me the chance to do it, then let me do it my way. Because you told me what my job is, to get us back to number one. then give me a crack at it, you know. So
Yeah, and if my head's on the plate, I'd rather go down doing it my way. You
and
can
I
live with
did,
that.
you know. That's again when I walked away at the end of the Ashes. A lot of people said, "Mate, you should have kept playing. Should have just had a bit of a break, and you're still fit. You're only young." But we lost the Ashes and we should have won. So that was a big part of why I felt. Yeah, that's accountability.
Yeah.
That's in cricket. That's the captain's place.
100%. 100%. And you talk about the decisions you have to make. See, I was never a captain, but I was a leader.
Yeah.
So because of my I was single, I had that scallywag.
Yeah.
But the coach knew I was ready to train. The coach knew. So I never had that C next to my name. So I could still play the scallywag.
Yep.
Because he knew that sort of leader is important as well with young. How was it to go from pup?
Yeah.
You're pup because you're a baby. You're 10 years old when you represent Australia. You know, then you go from that into now you're the captain. How's that then? Was that hard with the relationships with players? Did it alienate you from teammates? How's
Caused
that
a few stinks, didn't it? Yeah. Well, again, I made it clear when I took over the role that I would never make a decision based on a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And there was certain times where, you know, that test match in after Lords, Husey made 70. I had to go and knock on his door and tell him he'd been dropped for the next test. Tell my best mate that he'd been dropped, even though I didn't believe he should have been. But that was the decision the selectors made. I was a selector. I'm captain. I'll go and do that, you know. So, you know, I think maybe my approach, you know, like I say, I was very structured, very disciplined in how I felt we needed to train, play, act, prepare, recover to get back to number one in the world. Yeah, it definitely caused some, you know, disagreements with teammates for sure. Some tough conversations were needed to have, but like I say, I felt like I understood my role and understood what we needed to do to get there, and that's the only thing you look back, you know, after you've retired for plenty of years, and you think, even though you might have lost some of your closest friendships, I think the respect is there because you know they wanted the same goal.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted the same outcome, and thankfully we were able to get there.
And I think when you just even like sometimes I've carried on like a pork chop and you get filthy, but then when you're older, you know what? They were right.
Yeah,
I deserved a kick in the ass. They were right, mate. With your life and especially the international stage of cricket, your off-field life becomes a fishbowl. Yeah. How have you learned to live with that still to this day? You're off.
It's not great.
It's not great. But whether you like it or not, which I'm sure you don't, it's sort of like I used to be like that. You get the shits with stuff, but whether I've got to deal with it. Yeah. You know, like stuff gets written that which has been lies about me, which is quite serious stuff and confronting stuff I've been dealing with. Yeah. You're 24/7. Do you have to be careful where you go or what, you know?
I don't think you ever I'm still not comfortable with it. It's not something you're comfortable with, but I think you accept it a little more now than what you did when you were younger, when I was younger. I'm more selective now with my daughter, definitely, because I don't want her involved in it, so I'm quite protective of that. But when it comes to me, I'm pretty chilled now. Get a photo or write an article. A lot of the time, I don't read it. Somebody might send it through or ask you, did you see it? And man, I don't take much notice now. That's the other thing. When you get older, you get a bit more comfortable in your own skin as well, and you accept your strengths, but you accept your weaknesses as well. So if they're writing about some of those, you go, you're probably spot on. You're probably on the money. And if you're writing about something that is normally not true, then it's water off a duck's back. So, but mate, I'm not. I don't like the fact, you leave my house every day and there's paparazzi out the back, paparazzi out the front. You go take my daughter to the Woolies and my daughter's saying, "Daddy, there's a camera there." Like, you're not comfortable with that, but what are you going to do? Yeah. I try and be polite and respectful. I walk past and say hello to them. Please don't take photos of my little girl or dropping her at school. Can you please?
How are they with all that? Is there any?
They're quite respectful. Yeah. They're quite respectful. They have their days. Like, I feel like they got a job to do, and I get that.
Yeah, but when children are involved, that draws the line, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does. Yeah. And again, I'm the same with criticism as well. Criticise me in the media any day you like. Not my family, not my friends, not my daughter, because they got nothing to do with it. So when it's personal life, a breakup, a divorce, whatever it is, it's heavy when you see somebody else get written about that they don't deserve that scrutiny, you know?
Speaking of family, my wife's little brother, Darcy, he loves cricket, loves you.
Good boy.
And obviously, Fat Cat Richie was my first cricketer. But I did, but I've done a few AFL boys doing it. But obviously Luke, anyway, he calls the other day when he finds out I'm doing you. Yeah. And he goes, can I ask a question? Can you ask? And I said, yeah. Like
of course he can.
He's 13, 12.
What's his question first?
I thought, here we go. These questions aren't going to be at my level of it. But it was quite good. He said, mate, what's your opinion on Tim Paine's captaincy and what do you think the future of Australian cricket's like? And I looked at him and said, that's probably too highbrow. That's
too highbrow for me to answer.
Geez, that's not
on this show.
Not on this show. That's too good. That puts me to shame. But what was because he's come under some criticism himself. Yeah. Tim Paine, and what do you think Australian cricket future's like?
I think Paine's done a really good job for Australian cricket. He took over at an extremely tough time after Sandpaper Gate over in South Africa, and Australian cricket hit rock bottom. So I think he's done a great job as a leader. I think, a lot of people spoke about Paine this summer about tactically he didn't get a lot of things, or he didn't get everything right. But again, show me a captain that does. I think we forget that. I don't think there's a specific way that you need to captain to do it the right way. I think we're all got our own technique, we're all got our own style. A little bit like parenting. You just do your best. Try and do the best for your child. And I think captaincy is a lot like that. So I think Paine's got a lot of strengths, and I think we've seen those over his couple of years that he's been captain. It seems to me like the selector's going to stick with him. Our next test series is the Ashes series. So I would imagine that would probably be Paine's last. But I think he's done a fantastic job. I think Australian cricket's still in great hands. We've got so much talent. We always do. The talking point at the moment, who's the next leader after Paine? And I've said openly, I think Pat Cummins is the right man to take hold of that, probably across all three formats. So if Finchie retires after the World Cup and Paine retires after the Ashes, then I reckon Paddy Cummins can take over all three forms. But there's plenty of options, mate. Whoever they give it to, Australian cricket's, like I say, will be in great hands and we'll do fine.
Well, there you go, Darcy. I hope that answer's good enough, and please don't make them so clever next time. Mate, if there's one game, wrapping up, there's one game, obviously, you scored 2 centuries in one game, I'm pretty sure, didn't you?
No, I can't remember.
I
got plenty of ducks, I know that.
But if you could go back and play one game again, is there one that stands out above all?
Play it again and get the same result?
Sets to do the same result.
Oh, I'd do 2015 World Cup.
Yeah.
Final, MCG. 98, 99,000, flogging New Zealand. That was good.
How was the night out after? That was just as good.
Can't remember.
No, that was a good one then.
Trophy and my uniform on until about 7 a.m.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, we did it properly.
And that's what you're talking about, in the sheds. That's you can't miss those times.
That's the stuff I reckon you miss more than anything else. Well, for me anyway, because I don't miss the batting, bowling, fielding. I think I miss that win, that sitting around the change room, talking about the win, what went into it. Knowing you're getting the next morning off, you don't have to go training and drinking and celebrating. I think that's the stuff. It's hard to emulate that as well, even though you're close with, I'm so close to a lot of my mates now outside of cricket, but it's because of the work that you put in together during training and on tour. Then when you celebrate, it just seems that, extra special. So I reckon that's probably the stuff I miss the most.
Well, mate, I'll tell you, probably one thing you don't miss is me terrorising you at Cargo Bar.
The
Dragonfly. Pretty quickly, I used to get you in for about 3 months, and then I was like, Clarky, can you get me in here? The shoe was on the other foot very quickly. Mate, thanks for taking time out. It's great to see you again, and I appreciate you being so open and honest. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks brother.
Appreciate it.